FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And we are back on the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and it's time for another Triple Lutz Report. This is episode 354. The date is May 20th, 2014. So first, just wanted to let you know, Borderless Holdings, formerly known as Owings Metals, don't forget, go to them, sponsor the show. We couldn't do it without them. Just a phenomenal company. Those of you who've used them, you've given me your feedback, service, extraordinary, great people. They put you onto the right product for what you need. Silver is just looking so phenomenal now. I mean, the silver to gold ratio, 67. Maybe it'll get up to 80. I don't know the answer, but boy, when it gets up to these rates, you just have to wonder. And right now, what's making me excited about the metals, and I don't know when gold and silver are going to bust out. Not the one to talk to about these things, because I just don't know. Right now, as we talk, silver $19.40 the ounce, gold $12.95, $12.96 in that range. But what's making me excited is the price action in palladium. Palladium is getting close to its all-time high of $8.55 the ounce, which happened years ago. Right now, palladium at $8.23 the ounce, platinum $14.65. They're fighting a losing battle to keep those metals down. They were trying to keep palladium under $800 the ounce. And as our good friend David Morgan said, palladium, platinum, those are physical markets. They're so small. Yeah, they're easy to manipulate. But the fact is, they're physical markets. And you can sell that market short all you like. You can do naked shorting. You can do all that stuff. But the fact is, the people in that market take delivery. And with what's happening in South Africa, what's happening in Russia, those markets are just so strong. Those metals are so strong, and you have to have them. In a small car, there's a couple of grams of palladium and platinum in each catalytic converter. In larger trucks, your Suburbans, your big pickup trucks, there's 15 grams of palladium, platinum, and rhodium. Rhodium's kind of moribund right now. We won't talk about that. They also use rhodium in the nibs of fountain pens. I don't know how many of you use fountain pens. I like fountain pens, but I don't use them anymore. They're basically sitting in a desk drawer. Which, if you're into fountain pens, that's probably where your fountain pen is sitting as well. But palladium, David Morgan says the white metals lead the yellow. That's what's going to happen. Even copper has picked up lately, but copper is probably going to be a short-lived or short-lived rally in all likelihood. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to currencies either. I really don't. But the U.S. dollar is back up over 80, probably going to rally because it's just looking like the euro is getting ready to plunge again because they're threatening to do their own QE. I don't know the answers to all this stuff. That's why I have all these guests on, because they're smarter than me. I'm the first to admit it, but I just believe that you have to keep your eye on. Oh, by the way, I forgot. If you weren't able to attend the Liberty Mastermind Symposium, which is most of you out there, we had a good crowd, 35. I think we had a total of about 50 people altogether. They loved it. Again, it was better than the last one. For one thing, it was in Vegas and not Dallas. Vegas is just a better place to have a conference. We had a really great group of speakers. And again, it was so cheap to attend that we're embarrassed to even charge $150 to go there. The price of the videos, and we're talking 12 hours of videos nonstop. Wayne Allen Root's keynote address, and David Morgan's there, Mickey Fulp, and so many others. Gary Christensen, Andy Hoffman, just goes on and on and on. Just go over to libertymastermind.us, libertymastermind.us. Order them now. You get it virtually instantly. And if you don't like it, tell me. We'll give you a refund. My personal guarantee. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I don't dominate these things. Again, I'm just somebody that brings you the information that you need to get. There's no deadlines. There's no timelines for what's going on here. History doesn't work according to your deadlines or mine. That's why you need to go watch these things now. I was especially blown away by Gary Christensen's valuation models for all this. And again, these medals don't go for my valuation model. They don't go for his, but they are so... His model is just so powerful that you see, and the price action since then has really worked according to his model. And the 1,300 number is just so close. Every time they beat it below 1,300, it comes back. And to think that it might go lower, well, that's possible. Nenner's thinking that it might. I don't have the answer, but it's sticking pretty close to 1,300. Maybe we'll see a rally after July. That third, fourth quarter, just strong buying, seasonal buying, Indian weddings and all that. And we'll talk about the election in India because it's really significant, something you need to think about. And, just go over to Kitco, look at these numbers. Haven't talked about Bitcoin in a while, which is probably a good reason to look at it now. It's been holding pretty steady in that $400 range. Now it's back up, getting up to $500. When those markets get dormant and people stop looking at them, that's a time when you need to be thinking about them. There's a lot of exchanges. What Kitco is doing now is they're weighting these exchanges, which I like. I guess you could really kind of arbitrage these exchanges if you could buy one at one and sell it at another. I'm looking here at ItBit and pretty interesting stuff. But I got to believe it's virtually impossible to arbitrage because some of these have so little volume. And how do you trust any of these exchanges? One of them, called Local Bitcoins, is their latest bid is 509 and their ask is 509. And then you've got Anx HK, I guess it's in Hong Kong. It's their latest bid and ask is 467. So can you buy on one and sell on the other? I don't know. I got to talk to Trace Mayer about it. And because ideally, all of these should be the same, which leads me to believe that these numbers aren't what they claim to be. Because how could you have different numbers at one and at the other? It doesn't sound kosher because the numbers you would have arbitraging that would seek to make the numbers equal one another. Don't seem right, does it? So we got some stories on real estate. I'm saving that for later in the show. there's just so much going on with real estate. And, that's something I've been involved with when I consulted with the mortgage bank. I know more than probably most people do about credit scoring. Been involved with credit and credit scoring for the past almost 40 years, guys. So something I know about. If you got a question about credit scoring, just write me an email, khl@kerrylutz.com or kl@kerrylutz.com. Either way, it gets to me. I know a lot about that stuff, how to raise them legally and how to lower them legally, not that you'd want to. And by the way, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network, Twitter @Kerry Lutz. Go to iTunes. You can subscribe to us, which I recommend that you do. That way, I know you're not perhaps going to listen to every single show. We produce 2 hours of shows every day, believe it or not, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. But if you want to, you know that you can, and you automatically subscribe to us there. It gets delivered to your iTunes program, whether you're on your PC or you're on your Mac or your Linux machine, or if you've got one of these nice little iPhones, it'll automatically deliver it to the podcast app there. So it's just an easy way to get all the shows. That way they're there. You just go to the iTunes store, look for Financial Survival Network, and we're there. So getting back to Borderless Holdings, okay, formerly known as Owings Metals. I like them a lot. They've got all the traditional bullion, whether you're looking for harmonics or Chinese pandas or Canadian maple leafs, gold or silver, all that stuff. You can do it. But the coolest thing is that, look, everyone's worried about confiscation. Personally, I don't think they're coming door to door to confiscate your gold and silver, at least not yet. Dave Selig, the accountant that we had on, he's convinced that they're going to confiscate, but not for the reason that you think. He thinks they'll confiscate for the reason that Peter Schiff thinks they might, that the government is broke, no one's accepting fiat, and they're going to need the money to pay the soldiers and pay the cops and pay the mailmen. Is he right? I don't know. I tend to think not. But if you're one of those who thinks that they're going to be confiscating, then Borderless Holdings is the only one out there other than going to Indian or Far East jewelry stores and buying 22-karat gold. But Borderless's solution is better, in my opinion, and that is wearable wealth, as they call it, which is the Indian method, but it's better than Indian. Indian jewelry is 22-karat and often not durable. Borderless Holdings is designed specifically with that in mind, because it's beads and it's connected with a sterling silver cable that is detachable, and each bead is precisely measured out to a specific weight. So let's say, and the beauty is, if you're wearing it, you don't have to declare it. If you wear, you don't have to declare, and if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Well, not exactly, but if you wear, you don't have to declare. So says Borderless Holdings. You might want to get a legal opinion about that, but it sounds pretty reasonable. I remember my parents, my mother used to wear jewelry out of the country. She would file a declaration with customs when she left the country with the jewelry. So when she came back, they wouldn't say, "Oh, you're trying to smuggle jewelry back," and not pay a customs duty on it. But if you take it out of the country, you don't have to worry about it. You're free to wear it any place in the world. And, you can bring proof that you purchased it elsewhere to those countries if they're trying to hit you for a duty or whatever. But generally, you bring it, you pull it apart, you can sell off the beads, and they sell the jewelry up to 10 ounces of gold, believe it or not. Of course, it's not you're not just paying a bullion price plus 5%. There's fabrication costs, all that involved in it. You can get it from an ounce up to 10 ounces. Really cool stuff. I'm looking into buying some myself a little later in the year. I think it's great. And the fact that you can detach it and sell the beads off as you need it. Look, I know people who left other countries just with the jewelry on their bodies. Sometimes they had diamonds in their teeth, believe it or not. This is a great way to put a part of your wealth into it. No, should you put all your wealth into it? No, you want to have coins. If you've got a lot, then you need some bars. But look, for part of it, I think it's a great thing. Going to pay a little bit more, but the good thing is when you try to bring bars and coins into other countries, you will pay tariffs. On your wearable wealth, you pay no tariff. So the extra cost of fabrication, you're going to pay that anyway when you bring coins in the form of tariffs. You save the tariff on the wearable wealth. Something to consider, highly recommended. So other stories here. Well, New Jersey, public education. I mean, this is just so stupid the way that they do things. They build a new high school in Paterson, New Jersey. If you ever saw Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, it's about this guy, Joe Clark. He kicks ass and throws out the troublemaking students. Learning takes place. The state doesn't take over the high school. They pass the basic skills test that New Jersey administers. Then Joe Clark cleans the place up and, the teachers are teaching, the kids are learning. Then later on, Joe Clark has a heart attack, massive coronary, has to stop teaching, leaves the school, then the state takes it over and, nothing good happens. Well, they build a new school in Paterson. I guess the school is the state's running the school system. And, it's called the International High School. The new building opened in September of 2008, even though its smoke control system was not done. They awarded a $500,000 contract for the system more than 16 months ago. The project reached substantial completion on October 22nd of 2013, according to the New Jersey Schools Development Authority, which is just a way they can float more debt and taxpayers don't have to vote on it, and they can do it anyway and basically sidetrack the will of the taxpayers. And the construction authority is waiting for approval on a permanent certificate of authority. But in the meantime, they have to have fire marshals set up there to make sure that no fires or burn the place down. And city firefighters were assigned to provide the service at the high schools. And in 2009, a private company was contracted to supply the officers to stand watch. And they've basically squandered $500,000 over the past 5 years to do what this fire detection system should be doing. And the system works, but they don't have the permanent certificate of completion. So that's the way your government squanders your tax dollars. Isn't it a beautiful thing? And this happens all over the place. They waste money. I remember the school system in my town, did exactly the same thing. They tried to fire this guy because the superintendent didn't like him, because they had him on tape bad-mouthing the superintendent, saying that he was cowardly, and they fire this guy who he had perfect reviews up until that point. The guy sues. He gets his job back. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to sue this guy, and eventually they have to rehire him and give him his back pay. It cost the school board over $1 million to do this, and they had to hire somebody else per diem. This guy was retired who they hired back to do the guy's job, and they paid him several $100,000 to do the guy's job, and it was just disgusting. And this is what happens all over the place. So here's a great thing. You'll enjoy this. The number of people receiving disability hits a new record. It's now almost at 11 million. And the number of disability beneficiaries in the United States rose to 10,996,447 in April. And that's a new record. It exceeds the populations of Greece, Tunisia, and Portugal, and is approaching the population of Cuba, according to which according to the CIA World Factbook is 11,047,251, and that's people on total disability beneficiaries. Includes 8,942,000 disabled workers, 153,475 spouses of disabled workers, and 1,900,740 children of disabled workers. And none of those individual categories of beneficiaries set a record in April, but the combination of all three was the highest it has ever been in the history of the disability program. And, it's just a wonderful thing that the government provides for those in need. And you can look for that number to keep continuing going higher and higher and higher. And so there's you're going to want to hear about this one too. There's a financial advisor says Obamacare encourages divorce and other scams to bilk the system. This is from the Washington Examiner. With a little tax planning or even divorce, wealthy Americans can easily bilk Obamacare out of tens of thousands of dollars a year in taxpayer subsidies to cover their insurance costs, according to a how-to written by a well-known financial advisor, David John Marotta of Marotta Wealth Management in Charlottesville, Virginia, said just a few lifestyle changes would enable a family that owns a business providing income of $140,000 to legally win enough subsidies to cover all but $600 of a $10,825 Obamacare Silver Plan policy. We'll talk more about this when we return on the Financial Survival Network.
FSN Radio.
Do you have Medicare or health insurance through your employer? If so, listen up. The healthcare reform wasn't written to save the healthcare industry or even to lower healthcare costs. Shoot, it isn't even designed to insure the uninsured. It's just a temporary political byproduct. Like a flat rock you step on in a swiftly moving stream, Obamacare is just a means to an end. Want to learn more about Obama's ultimate objective? Then you'll want to review our latest research presentation found on oclies.com. In it, a health expert and industry insider explains what you think you know about caring for your health is about to drastically change in 2014. Plus, he details the simple steps you could take to save thousands of dollars per year in health costs. It's free for you to preview at oclies.com. Don't waste time. What you don't know about the healthcare reform could hurt you and your family.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We're back on the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. This is episode 354. We're brought to you by Borderless Holdings. And don't forget their wearable wealth. Hopefully you'll never need it, but if you do, you want to have it. So getting back to David John Marotta, he said, in trying to make Obamacare a middle-class entitlement, the legislation encourages even wealthy people to take advantage of the subsidies through divorce, early retirement, or just hiding income in multiple 401k contributions. And as you know, if you listen to the Financial Survival Network, incentives change behavior. And are these really the behaviors we want to encourage? And in a post on his firm's website titled How to Bilk Obamacare, Marotta and co-writer Megan Russell said that by reducing a family's modified adjusted gross income, it's easy to qualify for subsidies available to Americans making up to 400% of the poverty level, about $94,200. In their example, they offer up Michael and Lisa, both 51 with 2 children, and who own a business that earns income of $140K. They are frugal and have put lots of money away in retirement and savings accounts, and they want to avoid surging private insurance costs. So Murata suggests 3 paths to get the subsidies: divorce, retirement, or tax planning, which is called the best alternative. Divorce is an option, he said, because Obamacare heavily discriminates against married couples in favor of single parents. Well, look who passed it. Nancy Pelosi, and, San Francisco full of single people. The family could also sell their business and retire on little income. But with tax planning, they can receive the subsidy and keep their business too. So if you want your business, you can keep your business. If you want your insurance, if you like your insurance, if you like your business, you can keep them. And Murata's proposal is that the family split up their income among all 4 members, pour most into retirement accounts, leaving little income under Obamacare guidelines. Using the plan, family has put a total of $109,000 into the company 401k, $24,000 into Roth IRAs, and now has taxable income of only $31,000. And with this MAGI, the family of 4 would be at 132% of the poverty level, and this qualifies them for the maximum ACA benefit, requiring them to pay just 2% of their income for health care premium. The cost of a silver plan, normally $10,825. That would cost them only $600 per year. The great complexity of the tax code offers a great opportunity for tax planning. Even if you have large savings, keeping your income low may open the door to having your health insurance subsidized. It's just so corrupt. It really is totally corrupt. And yet, this is the bad behavior that people will do to get a government handout. It's disgusting. I probably could do this myself, but I refuse to do it. I won't. It's just wrong. So, India. This guy gets elected, and he can't even get a visa into the United States. Modi is his name, calling him perhaps the Margaret Thatcher of India. And he's pro-business, pro-American, growth-oriented prime minister in the world's largest democracy. And is it good news or bad news for the world's oldest democracy? And, this is from townhall.com by Mona Charan, not one of my favorite people, but hey, she's got a point here. The standing party there got their asses kicked. They'd been in power forever, and the White House was less than thrilled over it because this guy is a free market guy, and they sent out some boilerplate praise of a free and fair election, and he didn't even send his thanks to the U.S. He's a small government guy, and his province that he ruled over just happens to be doing better than any province in India, just like that moron Rick Perry. His province of Texas is doing better than any other province in the United States, except perhaps North Dakota. You could say it's because of the oil, but, California's got plenty of oil and nobody wants to drill on it because they know that the government of California is going to confiscate the profits that they manage to derive from drilling for the oil. And that's why California is going bust. And, he was on some list because there was a train carrying mostly Hindus returning from a pilgrimage in 2002 that was firebombed, killing 59 people. And then Muslims were thought responsible, and the Hindus responded with a whole killing spree of their own and killing as many as 1,000 Muslims. Modi, as governor of the state, was held responsible for not doing more to protect the Muslim minority, and India's Supreme Court ruled that he wasn't culpable, but we didn't like it here, and he got put on the list, and now I guess they'll have to take him off the list. So, fact is, he's looking to expand trade for India, and the state of Gujarat has been listed by the Cato Institute as among the best in the nation for citizens' rights, governance, quality, and economic growth. Best in India, that is. And perhaps he will boost India's prospects at a time when most of the world's economies are in what economists gloomily label as secular stagnation. I would call it a depression. And he's going to be good for gold. He's getting rid of the tariffs for gold and silver, and he might very well see that gold goes up as a result of this guy. And, Obama was scornful of the Republican critique on regulation during the 2012 campaign, and he mocked cut to regulations and call me in the morning. Investors Business Daily reports that it is now easier to start a business in Slovenia, Estonia, and Hungary, all formerly communist countries, than in the U.S., and Obama remains wedded to the kind of anti-business policies that a majority of Indians just rejected. Unlike the voters of India, he seems immune to learning from experience. We'll see whether the same can be said of American voters. So, hey, Mona, I agree with you. We'll see what happens. Hey, housing. We need to talk about housing. Really, really important here. What happened with housing here, it was already starting to go down, but in certain key markets, like where I live in Florida, in New York, it's still pretty well booming. In LA, in San Francisco, really strong. But I see it now. It's starting to deflate in Florida. Someone I know, they were selling their home. They were literally, the day they were closing, financing got yanked from the buyer. And what happened here, and we had Karen Simpson Hankins on the show October 24th of 2013. And we were talking about mortgages, that there were big changes coming to the mortgage market, compliments of Dodd-Frank. And one of the major things, this isn't necessarily bad, is that the old 20% down payment looked like it was going to be coming back shortly. And a whole bunch of things like if you apply for a mortgage, forget about credit repair. You had to do the credit repair before applying, and there would be a test on your ability to repay the mortgage, meaning that the way the banks were interpreting it was that you needed to have 6 months worth of funds on hand to make your debt service or your monthly payments, and a whole bunch of other things, qualified mortgage rules, which I won't go into. And it looked like, especially in middle America, away from the coasts and the hot real estate markets, the market was already slowing. And what we really talked about was that looked like it was going to get more expensive to get a mortgage. And as we speak today, the rate for a 30-year mortgage, if we go to Zillow.com and we look at their mortgage rates, we see that mortgages are 30-year around, I don't know. We look here, we're looking at 30-year fixed rates around they're right around the 4.0 rate, give or take. And really, they should be even lower than that. They should be in the threes. But what's happened is, due to Dodd-Frank and all these onerous requirements, they've gone higher. And I want to talk more about this when we return.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Are you worried about protecting your wealth against a dollar collapse? Worried about gold confiscation? Owings Metals provides wearable wealth solutions that will keep your wealth safe from a declining dollar and from a government that's getting more desperate by the day. The Indians have understood this for thousands of years. Americans are just starting to catch on. When you wear an Owings Metals 24-karat piece of jewelry, you can safely cross borders and take your wealth with you. Best of all, it's insurable, and unlike a lot of Indian jewelry, it's very durable. It can easily be disassembled and sold off in pieces if you need cash. It's surprisingly affordable and definitely should have a place in your wealth diversification strategy. Precious metals are like so many other types of insurance. You only find out how important and essential they are after disaster strikes. Call Owings Metals now at 855-604-6343. 855-604-6343. Don't wait until it's too late. 855-604-6343 now.
FSN Radio.
When your accountant wants tax-free income, this is what he does. Accountants know the law. They also know that any American could legally get paid up to 3 times per month, 100% tax-free. That's 36 tax-free checks each year. It doesn't matter what you make already. This simple strategy could work for anyone. Go to www.irsrevenge2.com to learn how. That's IRSrevenge2.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We're back on the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and we're talking about mortgages. So what happened was, yes, mortgages have gotten even more expensive because of the rates. Another thing that the Dodd-Frank did was it required lenders, regardless whether they were just independent mortgage companies or big banks, to be more responsible for the quality of the mortgage they made. So if you loaned to a person and they defaulted in a certain amount of time, or you made mistakes, you were going to be responsible. And this is what's called putbacks, loan putback provision. And more of this you're seeing happen. And you know what? Guess what happened? The number of loans made, the mortgage originations made, applications placed are way, way down. And why did this happen? Because people don't have the money to make the down payment, the 20% down payment. They just don't have it. It's really that simple. And it's sad, but true. They just don't have it. And also, they don't have 6 months worth of payments. And a lot of people looking to buy homes are self-employed, so they can't prove their income like they once could. And, you see this over and over and over again. And it's just problematical. And, we see it, and it's a shame, and I'm not saying it's the only reason why it's down. People out there, the subprime market is kind of gone. So what do you think the government's going to do about it? Well, the first thing they did is they've loosened the putback provisions, meaning that if somebody made a bunch of payments on time and then they went south, the mortgage, the government isn't enforcing it anymore. They're saying, oh, well, you did your part, lender, bank. We understand, and it isn't your fault. We're not going to hold you to it. And now they're looking at monkeying with the credit scores and on and on and on. So what's going to happen here? Oh, and, one other thing that the banks were doing is they were raising the credit scores or the so-called template that you had to have better credit scores, at least a 680, to qualify for a mortgage. So all of this has compounded to make it much, much more difficult for a person to get a mortgage. And then it's raised the rates, the cost of getting a mortgage. So all of these things have compounded, and now it's just become much harder to get a mortgage. Oh, and then one other thing is that what became the new subprime lender, FHA, because Fannie and Freddie, were insolvent, they cut the maximum they will lend. So what's coming now is that FHA is making smaller loans with only 3.5% down, but that Fannie and Freddie will cut their down payment requirements. They're going to cut the credit score requirements. They're going to cut the ability to repay requirements because Obama's only got a couple years left in office. All the damage that they're going to do now from the lessening of standards, it's going to be somebody else's problem. And they know that they got to keep making real estate work, because if they don't, they have no chance of getting the Congress, keeping the Senate, and they have no chance of getting the House back. And this fits in with a recent study by William Frey at the Brookings Institute, which shows that young Americans between the ages of 25 to 34 have remained stuck in place in the aftermath of the recession. Their geographical mobility rate is extraordinarily low. By one estimate, only 20.1% of millennials moved in the past year, and that figure includes local moves down the street and across town. When you look at long-distance moves between counties or states, it's only 7%, close to a historical low. Thank God my kids are not in that group. My kids are on their own, doing just fine. Thank you. If they were living here, there would be blood. I don't think they could stand me. I don't think I could stand them. I love them to pieces, but I love them to pieces when they're living in another state and I'm living here, and we can get together, every few months. I love you. I love you. I love you. I miss you. I miss you. I miss you, only because you don't live here. God, I just can't picture it. But you know what? In this world, you do what you have to do, and you get along. And this is from the New York Post. You can laugh if you like, but if history is any guide, they say they're more than cautious. They're downright paralyzed. Millennials are mired down. Frey said they're very cautious about buying a home or moving to new areas. And this fits in with what we were just talking about. From its earliest years, the U.S. was known for the geographical mobility of its population. European visitors gaped at the streams of migrants headed west, stunned at the willingness of Americans to take off on foot, horseback, and canal boat. A man builds a house in which to spend his old age, and he sells it before the roof is on, reported Alexis de Tocqueville, who visited in the 1830s. De Tocqueville's account was little more than an impression. It wasn't until the 20th century that historical statisticians began to compile data that helped flesh out claims that Americans were in perpetual motion. This is remarkable that this is what we've come down to. Researchers have confirmed that Americans were fairly peripatetic. That means in motion. For those of you not familiar with that term, it's amazing. They used a word that big in the New York Post, too. It's supposed to have like a 6th grade reading level to comprehend the Post. That's a big word. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, for example, studies of rural counties in Iowa and Wisconsin found that between 70 and 75% of the adult working population vanished in the 10-year intervals from 1860 and 1870 and 1870 and 1880. So, people can't even afford to get out of Dodge is what it comes down to. And usually people took more risks when they were poor. Now they're so poor they're scared to take any risks. And, they're talking here like people didn't just move down the block. They left the city. Between 1830 and 1890, Boston's population grew from 448,000 to 448,000 from 61,000. But in the same period, more than 3.3 million people entered the city. And you think about that, people aren't moving anymore. And that's really sad. So why are the millennials, who are less likely to own a home, so thoroughly stuck in place? Are they that wimpy? A whopping 36% now live with mommy and daddy. In an earlier generation of Americans blessed with far fewer resources and advantages, they could pull up roots, move to new towns and cities, sight unseen. Why can't the millennials do the same? They've got better education. There are areas in the country like Texas and Florida and North Dakota where jobs are plentiful for all different sorts of classes of workers. Why are they sticking around? I mean, is it student debt? Helicopter parents? I mean, why are they not going west or north or south? I mean, what is it here? Is some characteristic of being an American changed where we no longer take risks? I mean, why has it gone from go west, young man, to go to the basement, young man? What the heck is happening to us here in this country? I mean, it's really kind of sad, isn't it? I mean, what's happening here? So, hey, one other thing, you're thinking about these bankers, dozens of bankers have died, and what could be more hazardous than being a banker now in America? Being a bodega owner in New York City, that's a deli, that's what they call them there. Well, look at it this way. In a little over a year, close to 60 Chinese officials have died of unnatural causes, with most being suicides. And the strong suspicion is that this epidemic of mysterious deaths among China's elite is likely tied to the anti-corruption campaign being led by Chinese President and Party General Xi Jinping. I mean, who would think that being a Chinese party official could be more hazardous than being a software developer for a certain large bank on Wall Street? I mean, I thought that was the most dangerous job in the world. I mean, you could be near a window there and you might just jump. And the newspapers there have been told in a secret order from Beijing to stop reporting on suicides by top government and party officials. I wonder if they're insured. That's what I'd like to know. So, hey, by the way, we've got a great interview coming up with Gerald Celente. Maybe he can help fill us in a little bit more on what's going on here. And obviously, there's a brain drain going on in China. Let's figure out what's happening there, because it's going to be hard to fill those positions if suicide is becoming the norm, and it's going to be really hard to get them insurance too. If I was an insurance company, I'd be very loath to write a policy if you were in the upper echelons of the Communist Party. Very hard. So that's it for today. This has been another Triple Lutz Report. Kerry Lutz signing off.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.